Hello, Mike Hurt back at you. Another great topic for you new folks out there just getting started with retriever training. We're going to talk about some basic gear that you're going to need in your training. We talked last time about the 20 essential items that were in my bag. Watch that video because a lot of the stuff that's in this bag you'll also need to use while you're out training. But a lot of the stuff in here you're going to use while you're at an event, a hunt test, or a field trial. But a lot of the stuff I'm about to show you is the best gear for retriever training. All right, so first and foremost, you have to have something for the dog to retrieve, right? Whether you're training alone or in a group. And a lot of the stuff I'm going to show you is what I use when I'm training alone. So first, let's talk about bumpers. Bumpers come in different sizes, different colors, and different shapes, different consistencies. There's canvas, there's plastic, there's bird simulator out there as well. But let's start with the smallest ones. I buy I think these are 2.5 inch plastic bumpers. I buy the cheapest ones I can because I'm going to lose a lot of these along the way. And over the last 30 some years, I probably have bought hundreds and hundreds of these. I try and mark them somehow with my name on them, and in case someone finds them. But it's always kind of a joke when we're running hunt test or field trials and a dog comes back at a competition with a bumper in its mouth and it's got your name on it. So try and pick them up while you're out in the field when you're done. These I use for running blind retrieves. I'll have a pile of orange ones that the dogs have a hard time seeing. I may have a pile of white ones. I may just mix them all up. But it's easier for the dogs to come back on a long blind retrieve with a smaller bumper in their mouth. And I can put about 15 or 20 of these in a bucket and store them in the back of my truck while I'm going out in the field. Or I can take that bucket out, dump it on the ground, and leave the bucket as a marker. So these small ones fit real nice and they're easy to transport and it's easier on the dogs. Now, if I'm running marks, a lot of the times we'll use these big 3.5 inch black and white or black and white bumpers. So visibility is the key here. When you're throwing marks, the dog needs to see the bumper. At a greater distance, sometimes a white bumper is preferable. If you're in forested areas, dark cover, etc., a white bumper may stick out better, giving the dog better visibility because you want them to watch the arc of the bird going through the air. Sometimes if you're in flat ground and you got nice big blue sky, a black bumper will show up at a greater distance. So I have about, I don't know, a dozen big white ones and about a dozen black ones. And speaking of how many you should buy, I probably will pick up about 2 dozen orange and a dozen white of the small ones because I'm going to use these orange ones most of the time when I'm running blind retrieves. So you got orange and white for blind retrieves, black and white for markers, either all white or all black, or sometimes these are called flashers. You can get black and white mixed. Sometimes these show up better at a greater distance. I like these Avery Sport Dog ones because they're fat on the end and it's easier for the dog to grab the middle, especially when I'm doing force fetching. I'll use this a lot of the time, but these work great out in the field as well. So I'd pick up some of these. I don't have very many of these. I maybe have 6 of these, but again, because most of the time I'm either going to throw all white or all black. Very, very rarely will I throw black and white. Other ones to use, the Avery Sport Dog or ATBs. These are a flasher, so these show up better at a greater distance. And these greenhead ones are a little harder to see, but they're also a little easier to hide in cover, making the dog hunt a little bit. Now, these are easy to crack, so I don't use them in the wintertime very often. I will use these rubber bumpers instead, but I have probably 6 greenheads and around 6 black and white because I try and run a little bit of SRS periodically as well. Now, you may be wondering, what in the world are you going to do with this thing? This is a bleach bottle filled up with about a quarter weight of rocks, which you can hear, and I got a rope on it, making it easier to throw. If dogs are having a hard time on long distance marks, we will throw this bucket. You'll even work in a winger. We will throw this. Now, obviously, you throw this, the dog's not going to be able to pick this up and bring it back. That's not the goal. It's to be able to see a throw at a greater distance. So then we'll place a bumper or 2 bumpers or a bird or something out close to where this will land. We'll do that first, and then we'll throw this. But This is a great tool. Another thing you can add to your arsenal is get a big white sack, and you can put a bird in there, and then you can throw that entire thing, and that's going to have a nice big arc on it as well, with lots of excitement at greater distance. And then you have to put a bird or two out where that lands. But as these hit the ground, it sticks out above the ground a little bit better. And thus, dogs will have an easier time once they get about 95% of the way. They'll see this, and it kind of gives them an area to hunt in, making it a little bit easier, especially if you have a dog that's popping or having a difficult finishing, getting a long mark. Then I may go back to something like that. So that covers bumpers. All right, let's get into blind markers. So when you're running a blind, you have to have some way of marking where the end of the blind is, and you can do that with markers. So there's two kind of trains of thought on this. One, as you're buying your best gear for retriever training, some of these you can make, some of these you can buy. But there's two trains of thought here. One is marking the end of your blinds, and the other, or versus, not marking the end of your blinds. Let's get into the first one, is marking the end of your blinds. Why do you need to mark the end of your blinds? A couple of reasons. If you have young dogs or you're trying to teach a difficult concept, even with an older dog, you don't want to have to battle with them at the very end. You want them to have a destination in mind. They can see something way out in the field. Okay, they know where they're going. They know they have to get out to that point. And that's where something with bright white can really be a good thing to do, is to put something out at greater distances that the dog can see, and then work on getting on and off a point, going across a big piece of water. They know where this is at, and they know they have to go there. It's great for teaching. So marking blinds is a great teaching concept. But once they are taught these things, then you don't mark the end of the blinds, because you have to have this kind of tool into the dog and you, that you have to know where the blinds are, and you have to get them slightly downwind. So the only way to do that is not to mark the blinds. And you teach first, and then you test later. So let's go over some of the markers that we use. This one I was shown from retriever trainer, professional retriever trainer, Bill Totten. I trained with Bill probably for, 10 or 15 years. And he helped me get an amateur field champion, several master hunters, etc. And I love Bill to death. And a lot of the tools that I have on my truck, in the back of my truck, are thanks to him. This is one of those things. So this is a marker, white on one side, orange on the other. When the sun's shining on it, it sticks out real nice, as you can see in the camera. But when the sun shines behind it, even this white side is going to completely disappear. You'll be surprised. Even you won't be able to see this. But if I have the sun shining on the front of this, more than likely I will use this solid marker. I have probably 24 of these. Local welder made these, just tack welded on a rod, and then I just spray paint the white and orange every now and then. I'll use this a lot for running wagon wheels. And again, I'll put a little link up here above on that video where I run a 9 to 12 leg lining drill with white on the long ones and orange on the short ones. And you can watch that video, and it'll show you some of the difficulties that the dogs will have versus the different colors. It's kind of interesting to watch. But again, I could use these on a long blind if I'm trying to challenge the dog more and they can't see orange as well. I'll put this out with the orange side, because then I can see it and I know where it's at, then I can handle them to it. Or if I have a young dog that's having difficulties, especially at the end of the blind, I'll put the white side up. Now, these are a little harder to make, but you can make them if you have a little welder or you know someone that can do that for you. But this is probably the easiest thing to make. Buy white lids to 5-gallon buckets. And what I do is, here's a 5-gallon bucket. Ace Hardware makes 5-gallon buckets. I can put all my bumpers in here, buy the white lids to go with it, have all the bumpers in here, and I can transport equipment using the bucket, but I can take the bucket out, dump out the bumpers, and I can use this as well, or I can put it that way if I want a little more white. Now I'll use the lid to mark it as well, because this is a translucent lid. So if the sun's shining behind it, it will show up. But the sun hits the front of it, it shows up real nice as well. But what's nice about this is I can move this up and down. So I can put this closer to the ground. Or if there's cover here, I can have a little bit covering up the bottom of it. Or if I want, I can get it way up above the ground and make it a little bit easier for the dog to see. So there's a little more flexibility, and it's a cheap, easy thing to get and buy. Speaking of cheap, easy things to get and buy, is one of these things. It's just an electric fence post. So this fence post, stick it in the ground. You can either have it standing straight up, make it a little bit easier to see. You can put it off to an angle, so it's a little harder to see, or you might put it like that. You can get black, you can get orange. Again, at the hardware store, these are incredibly cheap and easy to buy. But the other thing I like to do is you can stick the top of the bucket on top of that, stick it in the ground, and that will stick out real nice as well. It's great if you want to run poison bird drills, etc., and you're trying to mark the end of the blind. Those are some of the things I would make and have in the back of my truck, especially when I'm training alone or even in a training group. Now, these are the things you can buy that are already pre-made. All this is a stake, like I just showed you here, one of these stakes that's cut off about 8 inches, and then it's just a piece of fabric sewn, go around that with an orange top. If your wife is handy with a sewing machine, that's an easy thing to make. I've got some that have orange, some that have a dark red, some are harder to see, some are easier to see, but a lot of the times at hunt tests, you'll see this kind of a marker at a hunt test, if they don't use something like natural cover, a bush, a rock, the end of a log, etc. The other thing I like is this thing. This thing has been really kind of a cool little gadget that I got from Northwest Camo, and I'll leave links below. But you can see how well that sticks out in the light, but if I wanted to turn it just a little bit, it's going to make it a little bit harder to see. So if I wanted to challenge the dog where I could barely see a little bit of orange, then this is what I would use. But the other thing I like about it is it's telescoping. So this could stand up about 3 or 4 feet up off the ground. Again, just kind of like what I did with the white lid. Those are some of the things that I would use and have in the back of my truck. So I have probably 6 of these, this style, because if I run blinds, typically I'm going to run blinds. So I'm going to run 6 to 8 blinds in one training session. So I'll mark some, and I'll put some that are hidden that are not marked, etc. And again, dogs will eventually learn to find something like this in the field. So that's why sometimes judges don't mark the end of the blinds. They'll put some natural thing out there in the field. But blind markers. You need blind markers in the back of your truck. These are some of the basic gear for retriever training. All right, next up is a gunner simulator type thing. So this is a diamond. We use white. Why do we use white? Because dogs can see white at greater distance. That's why most of your field trialers are wearing white when they're training. All you hunt test folks that are training need to use and wear white, because dogs, you're training, all right? You're not testing. Wear a white jacket. Put a white gunner out there. Just make it easy for the dog to see where the gun is so they can mark off it. This is just a quick, easy, unfoldable deal. I've had this for 25 years. Look how good it is. I can take this off, wash it with bleach, and it comes out bright white all over again. I have 3 of these on my truck. I'll leave links in the description below. I also have one that has black and white in there. Again, these are cheap and inexpensive, but the other alternative you could do is grab yourself a lawn chair and put a white jacket on it and put that out by your gun station where you have your remote winger. That too is a way of marking a gun station, and is a little more inexpensive, but these are not that expensive, and I'll put a link below where you can buy them. All right, odds and ends. You can get this pipe, blue or red, doesn't really matter, at the local hardware store. Cheap, really cheap. And this is a great little healing stick that you can carry with you. You can tap the dog on the butt. You can, if they get ahead of you, you can tap them a little bit on the head. But it's just a way of extending your arm out to get a little more control on your dog when you're training. I have 2 or 3 of these in the truck. I even have some that have golf handle grips on them that I bought. Again, extremely cheap and easy. A cheap and easy way to make yourself a healing stick. Get yourself a ghillie blanket. If you're in a training group, ghillie blankets are a must. They use these all the time in field trials. They'll put one single guy out there, he'll shoot and throw, and then he'll sit down in a lawn chair, put an umbrella over him, and then put this over the top of him, and he will melt into the cover. Hard to see, so the dog has a harder time to remember where it's at. So get yourself a cheap little ghillie blanket, and I'll try and find a link for you where you can buy one of these as well. All right, next on the list is a running mat. These are, again, cheap and easy. Get them in all kinds of hardware stores, farm and ranch supply. Why do you use that? You come out of your last hold and blind where you're training, you come up to the line, you have a mat. This confines the dog to a space. Use these all the time in field trials. The judge will tell you, you and the dog, or you or the dog, or you have to kind of listen to what they're saying, have to be on the mat before they will release you to go retrieve, send your dog. So it's a way to confine that. You won't see it very often in hunt tests because it's a training aid and judges don't like that. So dogs get used to staying in one spot. Now, the only time you might see it in a hunt test is if you're in a water scenario and all the dogs are coming out soaking wet and they're going to make a mud hole right where you're running from. So they may put a mat down to create safety so you don't slip and fall and etc. So get your dogs used to running on and off a mat coming out of the last hold and blind coming up to the line. That's an essential, and it's cheap. It's not that expensive. Heel. Here. Sit. All right, hold'em blinds. You need to use hold'em blinds in your training because this is what you're going to run into when you're at a test. Always make your dog face with his back to the hold'em blind, facing away from where everybody's running behind you. Sit. This is the ideal position for the dog to be in. Sit. Right there. Okay? Don't make the dog come into the hold'em blind and put his face right up against the wall like this. Here. No, heel. 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 Here. Sit. Sit. Here. Because see what he did there? He tried to look around the corner. Heel. Here. Sit. And he knocks it over. Doesn't want to stay in here and look at this. Look at the wall. They're going to want to try and peek around. So bring him in here. Here. Sit. Sit. Sit down. Sit down. No, no. Kennel. Kennel. Use the kennel command. Sit. Kennel. Sit. Sit. Try and get him in this position right here. And then when it's your turn to go to the line, heel. First direction they're going to go is away from the line. And then you walk towards the line. This gets you greater control. Here. Don't just come in here, sit them down, and then immediately come out and go to the line. Because they're going to be trying to beat you up there. They're going to try and beat you to the line, and they're out of control. All right, heel. Here, kennel. Sit. Sit. So again, this is the proper position. Get them used to coming in and out like this and use the kennel command. Heel. Sit. And then walk to the line. Sit. Good. Heel. Here. Kennel. Sit. Sit. Heel. Sit. Heel. Sit. Good. Heel. All right, kennel. Kennel. Sit. Heel. Sit. Kennel. Sit. Heel. Sit. Kennel. Sit. Here. Sit. Kennel. Sit. Here. Sit. Good boy. Good dog. Heel. Sit. Sit. So I'm comparing Zinger. I got a Zinger and I got a Gunner's Up, and I wanted to shoot a Slinger. And just what you like about the ones you have. That's all I'm asking for.
I love my slingers.
You have slingers?
I have 3 slingers with Dogtra electronics, and they're simple and easy, and
Yeah.
probably less than a 1%.
What did you pay for it?
I bought them all together. I want to say it's cheaper than they are now, and it was 4 years ago, so probably $300 a pop.
Okay, so we asked Tim here to get out his Slinger winger, and it's a brand new original winger, and I love how it connects to the basket. Nice beefy mechanism there, and it's small and slender on the bottom of this winger, and it clicks into place, so it's not going anywhere. I think you'd be hard-pressed to accidentally kick that off of there as well. We got pulleys and rubber bands and a top setting and a bottom setting on this winger. So right now we've got it at its weakest or lowest throw, but there are hooks on the bottom that you can hook to, and that'll give you your bigger throw or the longest throw it'll have. So there's the compartment where the electronics is holding, and he's pointing to a bit of a nipple that's going to hit a 209 primer. And that's probably one of the simplest mechanisms I've seen for shooting a primer in any winger. Easy to put a primer in it, and probably easy to get that primer out. And I'll show you here in the other 2 examples of the other wingers. Zinger, for example, Zinger winger, not Slinger winger. Z with a zing. Zinger has 3 options for 209, 22, and a 32, but this one only has a 209 primer that you can put in it to get the bang once you hit the release button with the Dogtra electronics that are hooked onto it. But he's got a bumper in there, you can see, but we're going to take that bumper out, and we're actually going to shoot a bird, and we'll show you how far that bird's going to go, and it goes pretty far. So these are basically the same, but they're all just a little bit different. And one of the things that stuck out to me from just a general look is that there was a bar on top, and other 2 wingers are just the opposite. They have a bar on the bottom, and the top end is open. This does fold up real slender, and it's probably the lighter weight wingers out of the 3 that I'm going to show you. So it's nice and light. I don't know if you can stake them down, but I'm sure there's probably some way you could stake it down so it doesn't move as you launch it off. And I don't believe, just looking at it right now, I just realized that you probably cannot adjust those legs. It looks like there is a way to lock that into place. On the other 2 wingers, you can adjust the legs to get a longer throw or a higher throw, but this looks like it's just locks into place, and there's no adjustment for moving the legs up or down. Right, on a Zinger winger, you actually load the hook part of this on the back end like that. And then you have 3 little dimples here for 3 different types of shot, and then that's a 209 primer, that's a 22 blank, and I think that's a 32 blank. So that gives you more options as far as what blanks you want to put in your winger. It's the only one that has those 3 options that I believe. So the other thing that the Zinger winger does, it has 3 settings. So you got an upper setting, a middle setting, see the hooks here, right here, and then the bottom. So that's the biggest throw, that's a medium-sized throw, and that would be your weakest throw. So there's 3 settings there that you can adjust the rubber bands on this particular winger. And I'll show you. All you do is you pull these down like that, and they hook on there. You got a top, and bottom. So you got 4 bands here to pull. So that's a medium setting on this particular winger. You can see the rubber bands have been pulled from the pulleys. This has an open top, but has a bar on the bottom. So this is the Zinger winger. Just give you some kind of comparisons. I'm going to load a bird in here. Just like that. Let's step back. And we'll launch one. So this is a Zinger winger on a medium setting. Nice big throw. So you take a look at the front of this. And again, you got adjustable legs there that you can spread that out as far as you want. Now I didn't have it secured very well with the remote on it, but I have things that will attach that and make that look a little bit better. So again, a Zinger winger has this type of mechanism. So you have to push this back. Sorry, I cut my hand. It's cold out here. And again, it has 3 settings. It's got a 209 primer, a 22, and a 32. And that's a bang that you'll get out of a Zinger winger. Also has a nice pull feature. So there's a pull cord here. If you want to manually pull this. It's got a nice ring here to hold the rope onto. And the electronics are a little easier to get to compared to the other wingers that I've seen. So there's wires that go in there where it says Zinger, and you will have your servo in there that spins around, that actually releases this part of it. You get pulled back, then that releases this rocker arm. So again, this winger has 3 settings: a big setting, medium setting, and a weaker setting. And then you can adjust those bands on any of those that you want for getting a more precise location on where you want a bird to land. Okay, we're going to take a look at a gunner's up and show you the difference between that and a Zinger. This has an arm on it that this big ring has, that you can see right here, and you stick that in that ring, and then that'll hold it in there. Here, give me the bird. Ray, fetch. Stop. All right. So I'm gonna put the bird in the pouch, leave it. And this winger only has 2 settings, where the Zinger had 3. So the gunner's up has 2 hooks. You got a top hook, and you got a set of bottom hooks to put the rubber bands on. Okay, so we've got it connected with a rod and an O-ring. All right. Now I'm gonna actually put this on the weakest setting, which would be top. I got both bands, and I'm gonna put it right there. Put that side right there. I'm gonna move over here. And right there. So that is the weakest throw you're going to get out of a gunner's up. Okay, so top we call that. And then there's bottom with those 2 hooks. So compared to the Zinger side by side, Zinger has 3 settings. Again, a bottom, a middle, and a top. The gunner's up has a top and a bottom. So that's 2 settings. Now I'm going to launch this, and we're going to let my trusty yellow lab here, Radar, go get it. Radar. Okay, so you got a nice throw out of that. And again, that, as far as the tops of these go, both of them did the same thing. So when it's launched, it laid flat, and Sometimes these will come out of the hooks if you have it on its weakest setting. Sometimes it'll stay in, like this time it stayed in. But the pouches are pretty much the same. You just have a big O-ring on the gunners up, then you have a smaller, kind of a U-shaped mechanism there for the Zinger winger. But as far as the build goes, they're pretty much the same thing. So the front of these arms are adjustable. So you can adjust the height or the distance by moving these front legs in or out. And they hook up about the same. So here it is from this side. And here it is for the Zinger winger. And this is a gunners up. So again, that has a nice big long arm, which my wife finds it easier to load. This one, the Zinger, just has an open end on the back that you connect to. And that, got to be careful with that, because if you kick it accidentally, that could come off. So I would say the gunners up is a little more secure and the Zinger winger a little less, but they're about the same. So they're just subtle differences between them all. The other thing I would like to note, if you connect these O-rings with zip ties, make sure that there is no sharp edges here. And I'm saying this from experience, that when my wife loaded a winger, there was a sharp edge there, and she actually split her hand wide open. So on my wingers, I actually put electrical tape around the ends where those O-rings are to cover up those zip tie ends to make sure she doesn't cut her hand. So it's a safety thing. Just make sure that either filed down bare, soft, and you're not going to cut anything here with these ends sticking out, or the best thing to do, I find, is just put a little electrical tape on it. All right, to recap here, basically you need equipment to train your dog. Some of it's inexpensive, some of it's a little more expensive. I just started gathering this kind of equipment slowly over time. It's very beneficial if you can get yourself into a training group, either with a professional or an amateur training group. That way you have people out in the field throwing for you, giving you advice, helping you along the way. Join your local gun dog club, your retriever club, and train like you hunt, and train like you would run a hunt test. Train like you hunt, basically, is a very common phrase that's kicked around in the retriever world. And if you do that, you'll be a little more successful when you go to your next hunt test or field trial, especially for new folks just getting involved. Again, I can't emphasize enough that you need to get into a group. Look around and try and find birds. I didn't go over birds here, but frozen birds and thawed out birds are something that you need to get your hands on when you're training periodically. I don't bring birds out all the time, every time I go out training by myself, but I will bring them out every now and then, just to kind of mix it up for the dogs and give them a little more excitement and get away from the repetitiveness of just picking up bumpers. So in conclusion, have fun, get out there, train. These are some of the training things that I have on my truck. If there's something I'm missing that you have in your gear that you want to share with everybody, please leave a comment below. And I greatly appreciate you checking out the channel. And please hit the like and subscribe button so we can get more folks to watch these videos. And it gives me a little more motivation to make more videos for you folks out there in the retriever world. Again, my name is Mike Hurd. Thank you for checking out the channel. And hopefully I'll see you in the next training group.